Hello friends, welcome to Android 50, a crash course into Android development tailored for non-programmers. That's right, if you haven't done a single line of coding before and wanna be an Android developer, then this course is for you. In this short introductory course, you'll see what coding is and learn the basic blocks of programming while making your first Android applications. And with this course, you'll find the chance to see if coding is really for you or if you want to possibly pursue a career in Android development. This means we won't dive into some complicated theory of programming or learn advanced programming concepts, but instead start building Android applications step by step from the very first classes. Since this course is designed for non-programmers, the learning curve will be smooth, but I will try to be fast enough to keep you engaged and attentive throughout the course. So again, do you want to begin your Android development journey? Then welcome to Android 50. If you want to know more about what we'll learn in Android 50, let's do a high-level overview of what we'll cover in this course. We will start by learning what user interface is and how to transfer screen design into an Android application. After this section, you'll be able to build complex screen layouts in XML syntax containing buttons, texts, images, and more, and see the screens in your Android device or in an emulator. Then we'll learn how to write Kotlin code and bring those UI elements into life. We will build interactive screens where users will tap onto the buttons or input some text into the text fields to cause some changes in the screen. In this section, you'll also learn some basic programming concepts like variables, functions, loops, and arithmetic operations. Lastly, we will apply all this knowledge by building some sample applications and doing some coding exercises. At the end of this section, you will be confident in working in Android Studio, designing screens in XML, and writing Kotlin code to implement some business logic in the app. So, let's begin.
Let's start with the views. Views are the building blocks of the UI of an app. UI is short for user interface, and it means that everything users can see in the screen and possibly interact with. And views are the individual elements in a screen layout. Here you can see an example from the clock app. It displays some text, buttons, and other elements. Each of those components is called view in Android world. Can you see different parts of this layout? For example, this, that, also this. There are various types of views being used when developers build apps. Each type has a name. The first three view types we're going to see in this course are text view, image view, and button. Text views, as their names suggest, are used to display some text in the app with different sizes and stylings. Image views are specialized in displaying images, and buttons are there for your users to tap on to do some action. Please note that the names of the views follow a certain pattern. The words are not separated by a space, and also they are capitalized. Each of the initial letter of the word is capitalized. This is something we need to keep in mind. In this example, let's try to spot the views and guess their types. For example, this here is a text view, and also this is a text view. Can you see more? For example, this is also a text view because it displays some text, and also this is another one. And for image views, as you can see there, this is an image view. Also, that one. Also, this one here is also an image view. And the last two, these are possibly buttons. You may confuse buttons and text views because buttons also show some text, but to differentiate, buttons are there to tap on. And when user taps on these, you do some action. At this point, I want to ask if you notice something. When I'm showing the bounds of views, I use a rectangle. This is because all views are represented as rectangles in Android. Maybe you cannot see the borders, but it does not mean they don't have borders. If you have used office tools like PowerPoint or Google Slides, you already know this concept. You add some text and images in your slides. You do some styling, set font types, sizes, colors and such, and also you move them where you want them to be. For example, here I can see some rectangular text element. When you're designing your slide, you can see the borders, but when you're presenting, the borders are not necessarily visible to the audience. However, if you add a background color, like this one, then the borders are visible. It is very similar how views in Android works. Now let's see some code. Seeing some code can be intimidating since there are weird shapes and symbols in it. But don't afraid, everything will start to make sense to you after a while. This is a sample piece of XML code. In Android, when we design our screen layouts and position our views in the screen, we use XML. Here you can see that the above code is displayed as a text view in our app. When we want to change some property of the text view, like text, size, text color, or background color, we go and add or change some relevant part in the code. For example, if you want to change the height of this text view, you can give some bigger number to here instead of 200 dps. Or if you want to change the text displayed here, you can go there and change this text. We'll get back to this screen later. Now let's try to understand the structure of the XML code better. In the beginning and in the end of the code block, we can see these angle brackets. These angle brackets denote the start and the end of an XML tag. After opening a tag, we write the name of our view. Here it is text view. So that means this code will be used to define one text view. Please note that when you are writing code, you need to watch out what is uppercase and what is lowercase. Also, where you put white space is also important. That means if you write text view in one of these formats, your code won't work and will be invalid. When you have something incorrect in the format in the code you write, you will get errors. These kind of errors are called syntax errors. You can think of syntax errors as typos or grammar or punctuation mistakes. Since code is evaluated by a computer, a small punctuation error might confuse it and your app won't work as expected. That being said, let's continue with our study of XML structure. These purple and green lines are what we call attributes. Attributes in XML are used to change properties of the view you're defining. Each attribute is composed of the attribute name and the attribute value. An equal sign is used in between. Now, let's return back to our screen. In this XML tag, you can see 4 attributes. The first 2 defines the width and the height of our view. The third defines what text to display inside. And it might not be obvious for you for now, but the last one sets a background color. In our case, it's gray. Don't worry, we'll talk about these color codes in the future. You can ignore that part for now. When you go and change the value of layout width attribute to say 300 dps, then the displayed text view will be wider, like this. If you increase the height to 120 dps, then the view will be higher, like this. We'll talk about what dp means later in this course, but for now you can think them as some sort of dimensional units, like centimeters or millimeters. I know you want to start creating views with XML as soon as possible, but please bear with me for some more time. We'll start coding together right after we learn some more about XML. Okay, this is some more complete and more complex XML code. It's usually in an XML file. But when you look carefully, you'll recognize our text view tags here and here. However, the rest of the code is still unfamiliar to you. Let's start studying the rest of the code by the first line here. This is called the XML declaration. It's used to declare that this document is being written in XML format with this version code and with this encoding. We won't change this line ever, and it'll always automatically generate it when we're coding. So let's ignore this part and keep it always there on top of our XML files. The rest of the code you see here is a combination of two tags. Linear layout is a specialized kind of view that we'll see in detail later in our course. But please pay attention that its syntax is different here than these text views. This is another valid XML tag syntax. Instead of using a self-closing tag like this, we use a separate opening tag and a closing tag. If you write a combined XML tag like this in this format, it allows you to put some other tags inside. For example, here we have two text view tags inside of the linear layout tag. It'll tell Android to put these text views into another view called linear layout. With this structure, the linear layout becomes the parent of the text views, and the text views become the children of the linear layout. So this form allows us to build a parent-child relationship between views. Now, you know two different forms of XML text. One is the self-closing one. You can see the opening angle bracket and slash and closing angle bracket, which denotes a self-closing tag. And the second is a combination of opening and closing tags, like our friend linear layout here. I know it's too much information at once, but you don't need to understand or memorize everything. Pieces will start to come together after you spend enough time on coding. Now, let's recap what we have learned in this video. We write XML code to build our screens for Android apps. XML code consists of XML tags. Here we have one XML tag for a text view. How we write code is important. We need to watch out for typos and the casing of the words. The format and rules we write code in is called syntax rules, and if you make a mistake, this is called a syntax error. These lines are called attributes, and they define the properties of the view. There are two valid forms of XML tags: self-closing, like this one, and the combination of opening and closing tags, like this one. If we use the second form, it allows us to put other XML tags inside to create some parent and child relationship between the views. Great, now let's start writing some code in Android Studio.
Android Studio is the software Android developers use to build awesome Android apps. The software is open source and free, and it offers all the necessary equipment. This kind of software is called an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, because it has a collection of tools that you will need while you're developing, building, and debugging your application. To download Android Studio, go to developer.android.com/studio and then click the Download Android Studio button, and also read and accept the agreement to start the download. Download may take some time depending on your connection speed, and you may want to grab a coffee while waiting it. If you have already downloaded or waiting to download, let's go over how to install Android Studio. Usually, installing Android Studio is very straightforward, and if you go to developer.android.com Studio install, you can click the link in the descriptions. You can find detailed documentation on how to install Android Studio, the latest one, and also in different platforms. So if you're using Mac or Windows computer or a Linux operating system, then you can follow different guidelines and different tutorials to understand how to install Android Studio. No matter which operating system you're using, it's really straightforward. So I recommend going to that website, following the tutorials there, and get your Android Studio installed after your download is complete. So yeah, that's all. After you download and install your Android Studio, then you're ready to go with the next video. See you there. Okay, I assume you downloaded and installed the Android Studio and ready to start playing with it. Let's see how to create a project and then take a small tour in Android Studio. But before we start, I want to make something clear. Android Studio is a software, and software products can change a lot in time. If you compare the Android Studio you just installed and the Android Studio installed on my system, you might notice some differences. Each time software developers make a change and distribute the software, they use a version number. I currently use the 3.5.2 version. Your version number can be different. If your version is ahead of mine, that's usually okay. But if you have an older version installed on your system, please update or download the latest version. So let's start a new Android Studio project by clicking on this button. It asks you to pick a starter template. There are multiple options. To be honest, I always pick the empty activity template throughout my whole career. So if you're curious, you can go take a look at the others yourself, but we're going to use the empty activity template. After selecting that and clicking next, we end up in this screen. Android Studio asks a few more questions about our project. It's always fun to name projects, so let's give it a good name. I will say Cafe 50. Yes, I named it so because we will work on a food ordering application for an imaginary cafe named Cafe 50. What a coincidence, right? Android 50, Cafe 50. And package name is a unique identifier of your app. It's used to differentiate apps from each other. Usually, companies and developers use their web addresses in reverse form, but for us, it can be anything. I'll make it as is Com Safa Orhan, which is my name, Cafe 50. So you can put whatever you like as long as it is similar to this format. Do not forget to set a decent place for your project to live because it'll be easy for you to find it later when you need to take a look at it. For me, I'm gonna change it to Android 50 projects Cafe 50, and then I will select Kotlin as the language, and minimum API level should be API 2.1 or Lollipop. And now let's click on Finish and let Android Studio set up everything for us. This may take a while for you. If you're creating your very first project, Android needs to download the Gradle dependencies and such, so you may want to grab a cup of tea or a glass of water while Android Studio works on this for you and sets everything up for you. After the project is synced successfully, now let's orientate ourselves in Android Studio. On the left hand side, there is the project window. Let's resize it like this and see what is it all about. A project consists of a bunch of files and folders. We will see the structure of these files and folders later in the course in detail. But now, what you need to know is if you want to view or edit a file in your project, you can double click on the file to open it in the editor. So let's double click, and this is editor. Editor in Android Studio is a different kind of text editor. It supports syntax highlighting, code completion, and on-the-fly code analysis. Don't panic, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about. I will explain them later in the course. So now let's go to the activity main XML. To find this file, you can use the project window. I use my project window in Android view. There are other views as well, but I use Android view. And to follow along with me, make sure that you also use Android view and go to App, Res, Layout, and Activity Main XML. Or let me show you this way. Let me collapse it all. Go to App, Res, Layout, and Activity Main XML to open up this file. When you open this file, you may end up with seeing the Design tab, which is this. But I personally prefer to use the Text tab with the Preview window open. You can open and close the Preview window using this sidebar here. And you're already a bit familiar with what you see here. This is some XML code and a preview of it. In the next couple of videos, we will be working on this file. So make sure to learn how to navigate to this file. Let me close it and open it again. So app, res, layout, and activity main XML. And if you're in the design view, go to text tab, and if the preview window is closed for you, go and enable it by clicking on preview button in this sidebar, and you can always zoom in and out to see all of these in detail. And lastly, if you like shortcuts like I do, you can use a shortcut to open any file in your project without going through the whole file hierarchy. On Mac, I press Command-Shift-O and type the name of the file, activity main, and then I press the return key to easily navigate to it. If you're on a different system, please navigate to developer android.com/studio and then go to user guide there and go to keyboard shortcuts. This page will show you lots and lots of keyboard shortcuts, but what we are looking for is find a file instead of class. So it is Command-Shift-O for OS X, but Control-Shift-N for Windows and Linux. That is enough for this video. See you in the next one.